Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show I read a lot of comic books and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. And this week's pick of the week, Feral, issue number 5 from Image Comics. This is written by Tony Fleece with artwork by Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez. This book is absolutely amazing. Brad Simpson on the coloring, and the lettering is done by, I don't know. There's not a credited letterer here. Anyway, I'm loving this book. It's basically a zombie movie story, but with cats, right? It's a spiritual successor of sorts to Stray Dogs, which was like a psychological thriller, serial killer kind of thing involving dogs. This is a zombie movie involving cats, right? It's like the strain of rabies going around, but we follow these cats out in the woods. They have no idea what's going on. They're trying to learn how to survive in this new world, being hunted down by men in hazmat suits, having cats turn against them, evil foxes, even other animals. There's a really exciting scene towards the end here that I just absolutely loved. But like all good zombie fiction, like Dawn of the Dead, for instance, and I love this homage to the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead on the cover. I think that's super nifty and gnarly and neat. But there is some really powerful moments here in this story, like emotional moments. And you can kind of, if you're familiar with zombie fiction, you know that some of this stuff is going to happen, just like you do in those movies, but when it happens in a way that even though you know it's coming, it still hits you emotionally, that works. Of course, they're cats, so I don't like seeing cats in danger. Me personally, it's just the way it is. But man, this book is great. The art is one of the biggest parts of this story, right? You got Tone Rodriguez, who's doing the backgrounds. He makes them look very detailed and rich, like the background of an old cartoon. And then you've got Trish Forstner doing all of the cats in the foreground, so it separates those characters from that background. It gives it that very old school Don Bluth type feel. This issue worked for me. I think this series has gotten better issue to issue, and this is the best one yet. Feral, number 5, your pick of the week. Also from Image, we got Rook Exodus, issue number 4, another book that I'm just absolutely enjoying so far. This is one of my favorite Ghost Machine books. I think it's like Junkyard Joe, Geiger, and this one are like head-to-head for me right now, but Rook Exodus is doing such a great job of building out this world. It's a world, so humans have left Earth, they found this other place, they have terraformed it in a way, but those machines are breaking down. Most everybody leaves the planet, except for like workers, people that can't afford it, and the world is slowly dying, right? Meanwhile, you got these dudes, I think they're called wardens, right? But they wear these helmets that can control an animal species, and so they're so cool, like the designs and like which animals. There's like somebody who can control snakes, somebody who can control turtles, somebody who can control wolves, somebody who controls pigs, and of course our main character controls crows. I'm loving this book. Jason Fabok on the artwork is so freaking awesome. Intricately dense, yet clean, and never cluttered in any kind of way. It has a great sense of the character, the world, and just excitement. It generates excitement in me, and I'm really a fan of this book. Rook Exodus issue number 4 keeps amping up those stakes. Then we've got The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, issue number 4, Dan Waters, Rom V, Matthew Roberts, Trish Mulvihill. This is the final issue of this series, and as it's concluding, I think it's pretty solid. I think it's decent. Maybe I was expecting a little bit more from this property, as well as the combination of Dan Waters and Rom V together. When I go back and reread it, I'm interested to see, knowing where the story is, how I can pick up more of the thematic elements throughout these 4 issues. But I didn't like it as much as the Dracula one, but I loved how that one kind of weaved its way around scenes from that original 31 movie from Universal Studios. And also the Martin Simmons artwork was great. Artwork here is solid, it gets the job done, but it's more of the writing that I'm liking. But it wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I still enjoyed it, and I'm excited to go back and reread all 4 issues. Then we've got The Sacrificers here with issue number 10. and a new artist arrives on the scene, and it's what's his name? Andre Lima Araujo. I'm a huge fan of this dude's work. I first came across it, Generation Gone. It was a book he did with Alesh Kott back in 2017. It was actually my favorite book in 2017. His art, you can tell it's him here, but his style's a little bit different, but it's actually appropriating more of the style of Sacrificers. Not saying that he's ripping off Max Fiamara, because that's not what he's doing, and that's not what anybody could do, but he's doing his own thing, but it still visually is connected to that world. This one, we get the daughter of the sun and the moon. She is now mortal out there on her own in the world. This is her story, and it's interesting and it's cool. This book has been amazing. The last issue was so cool. So as I'm reading this one, I'm like, it's all right, but okay, we've kind of gone over this theme. We just got to get through this part. But then we get to the end of the book, and I'm like, clever. I like structurally what's happening to get certain pieces into certain places for where this book is going to go. So even though there's a new artist, do not fret. It still maintains the sleek coolness and the tragic reality of the Sacrificers. So check that out. Then we got Void Rivals issue number 11, Energon Universe. You know I'm loving it, and Void Rivals has just strengthened issue to issue. This second arc is kicking the first arc's ass. And the first arc was good and it was solid, but I didn't think it really compared to any of the Joe books or Transformers. But here now in arc 2, it's ramping it up, and it's showing such a direct connection to the Energon universe, and I'm just so in love with it. Everything that they're doing in the Energon universe rocks. Robert Kirkman is able to actually get a lot of information across without a lot of people just talking about it. He actually gets to lean into the action and allow Lorenzo De Felici to actually do what he's supposed to do, which is just draw great action sequences and really great fun comics. Plus you got Springer, and Springer was always one of my favorite Transformers back in the day because I loved the triple changers. But I love his personality here in this book, and I love him on the run with our two main characters. I love where this book is going. I think it's super solid. Then we've got the Six Fingers issue number 5 here. It's the final issue of Six Fingers, thus bringing a conclusion to the One Hand and the Six Fingers, right? 2 books, one from a detective's point of view, one from a killer's point of view, but this kept taking turns that I did not foresee, right? And that's one thing I love about Dan Waters when he's working on a book, is most times he subverts my expectations and does so in a really powerfully nuanced way. So I really loved this. When I read the last issue, The One Hand, I remember being like, that's interesting, but I really want to see the last issue of Six Fingers to see how it all wraps up. It wraps up majestically. It's really solid. And this book, when it first starts, at first you're like, does this book have to be set in this world? By the end of it, yes. It has to be set in this world because it's so much more than a simple serial killer mystery. It really dives into the secrets of this society and exposes a lot of... I loved this book. I thought it was a really solid ending, and now I'm super excited to sit down and read every issue of The One Hand and the Six Fingers in the right order that you're supposed to. If you want to, you can read them all individually, or you can kind of loop them together. I'm excited to do that, to pick up even more stuff that we probably missed the first time. So the Six Fingers issue 5 was a super solid ending. Then we got Spawn Kills Every Spawn issue number 1, written by John Layman, with artwork from Rob Sketchcraft Duenas. And I had a lot of fun with this. It's exactly what you think it is. It's just a silly, like, little baby Spawn running around. He's mad that all the other Spawns are getting all the attention and not him at the con, and he decides to go out and kill every other Spawn, because there's way too many Spawns, so that's cool. It's like poking fun at the Spawn universe, but at the same time just being silly with it and having a lot of fun. The artwork is solid, the story's solid. It's a book that's not serious at all. It's a big joke, but it's pretty fun, and it's not just a one-shot. This is the first of 5 issues. So that's pretty cool. Then we got King Spawn here with issue number 36. We got Jason Sean Alexander on the artwork, but also with another person. I don't know if that's the inker, or there is the first half of the book feels very clean and Jason Sean Alexander-y, and then the end of it doesn't feel quite that way, so it seems like there's 2 different artists. A little bit of clash there artistically, visually, but the art in the first half was way better. But This was an interesting book. So Spawn has had like the shit kicked out of him and he's near death. He's got to get stitched back up together. He gets a new costume that's more armored, more appropriate for this depowered Spawn in this post-Spawn 350 world. And then the ending, Spawn brings some extra protection and it's awesome. And you can see it coming in the book, but when it happens, even though you're ready for it, it's still exciting. So King Spawn, issue 36, I thought it was pretty solid. Then we've got Something Epic, issue number 12 here, the final part of the second arc of Something Epic. And the second arc of Something Epic has well surpassed the first arc. I thought the first arc had a lot of imagination, a lot of great concepts. It's a book about imagination, right? Now we're taking it deeper into other territories, talking about faith, talking about how faith relates to imagination, how imagination relates to spirituality, how that relates to mythology, right? So this has been a big murder mystery of who killed Zeus, who killed Sherlock Holmes, and we have our answers. We have the final battle here, and also a really interesting setup for where this series is going to go. Simon Kudronsky kills it with the second arc of Something Epic. Probably the best stuff I've ever seen from him to date, and I'm very excited to see where this book is going to go after this point. Then we also got Blood Squad 7, issue number 3. This is, in a way, Joe Casey doing a 30th anniversary Youngblood book or something like that, right? Blood Squad 7 is basically Youngblood. Even though they can't use those characters, they've just developed new identities for these characters and placeholders, like new avatars for these characters. And what Joe Casey did with Wildcats, where he took an early Image book and kind of grew it up a little bit and took it in a different direction and did some interesting new things with it, that's what he's doing here in Blood Squad 7, but with the understanding of the concept of Youngblood, right? Superhero celebrities, what happens 30 years later when they try to do it again. One of them goes rogue in the most heinous way, so now the team, for their first official mission, has to go and take care of one of their new members, at the same time getting another new member. I'm loving it. And I think if you're a fan of The Boys, the comic for sure, but definitely the movie or the TV series, you should definitely check this book out. Not enough people are reading it. Not enough people are talking about it. Blood Squad 7, issue number 3 was great. This book is definitely deserving to be on your read pile. Then we've got Local Man, issue number 12. Tony Fleece, Tim Seeley. They're doing such a great job with Local Man. Local Man is very similar in a way to Blood Squad 7, where we're taking the Image 90s days and that shared universe, right? And we're building out from it today. This is about a dude. It's a new character who he was like the Archer guy, right? In some superhero team in Image's early days, you could imagine, right? And this is him now today, dealing with the ramifications of all that stuff, and also just how his life is kind of falling apart. It's been awesome. This has been such a great book that actually has a lot of heart to it, and the mystery keeps ramping up as well. I really enjoyed this issue. There's some great funny moments, but some very serious moments, and an ending where you're like, bruh, what you about to do? Loving this book. Hats off to the creative team. Let's jump over to Marvel. We got a new X book from the ashes, A New Beginning. It's NYX issue number 1. This one's aight. It's aight. It's aight. It's just aight. It's written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly with artwork by Francesco Mortarino. And it's all right. It's a Miss Marvel-centric book. This is going to be a youth-focused X-Men book in New York City, focusing around Kamala Khan, one of the Cuckoos. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's Sophie. X-23 is going to be in it, Prodigy, and this dude right here. It's all right. I mean, it's okay, I guess. Some people are going to like it, some people won't. I know people think I'm harsh on Marvel books for some reason. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. But NYX, it was just It's Kamala Khan is going to school in New York. She winds up in... There's a mutant history class, like the history of Krakoa. I don't know. For something that's supposed to be such a new beginning and jumping on point, it feels too much just like the next chapter of Krakoa. Even though Krakoa's over, and that's nothing wrong with it being a direct continuation, but like, this is an opportunity to re-energize the X fans. And I feel like they're missing that opportunity, and subpar books like NYX are not going to improve their chances. We still got a few to come, so we'll see what happens. Then we got Ultimate Black Panther issue number 6. I'm loving what Brian Edward Hill is doing in the pages of Ultimate Black Panther. When this book first started, I said, this doesn't feel any different than your typical Black Panther book. But as it progressed, I started really appreciating the machinations that were going on in the story and all the different pieces that were being set up and interesting ideas that do go against the grain of what we're used to in the 616, but still it does feel very Black Panther, but just slightly different. But at this point, I don't care because I'm really wrapped up in this idea of Ra and Khonshu versus T'Challa and the rest of Wakanda and everything that's going on. And this is a different artist than we typically have had, but it fits the flow perfectly fine. I'm digging this book, and it just keeps ramping up. It's got a great deliberate pace to it that I think is just top notch. Then we've got Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue number 7, a Blood Hunt tie-in. And at the end of the last issue of Blood Hunt, we had the return of a character who had just been killed just like a couple months ago. But an interesting, cool return. It was a great moment in Blood Hunt number 4. This is that elaborated on a little bit more. How exactly did it happen? How did Khonshu get free? You're going to find out in the pages of Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue number 7. When I was reading this, I was like, this should have come out before Blood Hunt number 4. But then when you get halfway through it, you're like, no, it shouldn't, so you need that moment in Blood Hunt number 4. But if you've been enjoying Jed MacKay's Moon Knight, no reason why you're not going to like this one. Then we got Venom Separation Anxiety, issue number 3. This is written by David Michelinie. It's set in the 90s era of Venom. It's about the Purple Man. He gets a slice, a slither, if you will, of the Venom symbiote, and he develops his own Purple Man symbiote over that. It's also got a lot of connections to like some of the tech-driven villains in the Marvel Universe, like the Ghost and others that you would see in things like Armor Wars and stuff. So it's a silly book. It's not going to change your life, but it's doing exactly what it needs to do, which is kind of recapture that vibe and flavor of Venom in the 90s to us old heads who remember that, who loved it. So that's pretty cool. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Nice House by the Sea, issue number 1, a new series from James Tynion IV, Alvaro Martinez Bueno, and Jordi Belair, and it is a follow-up to Nice House by the Lake. Nice House by the Lake started incredibly strong, but it started losing me. And it didn't necessarily lose me because of the characters or because of the story concept or the way the narrative wound up. I enjoyed all of that, but I found myself disconnected from that book as it went on because the second half of that book was so horrendously delayed, right? And there were so many characters that it was hard to keep them all together, and I've yet to actually go back and reread it when I find the time. If we only had 4 more hours in the day, right? But if we all had the time, we could read whatever we wanted to, and that would be great at any time. But anyway, whatever. But Nice House on the Lake was solid, but I felt a little disappointed towards the end, but it was probably just because I lost touch with the story and the characters because of the delays. Then I find out, because that story left some stuff dangling, and then I find out that Nice House by the Sea is the same concept, but a different house, a different group of survivors. Basically, the world ends, and these entities pick like 10 people or something like that to live in a house to like save them out of the rest of humanity, but there's more than just one house. So I was kind of disappointed. It's like, so you're just going to basically do the same thing that you already did, but just with a new cast of characters? It's like Real World Season 1 to Real World Season 2 to Real World Season 3. And I said this Sunday night on Rockin' Robbie Live during the DC sneak peek, but I was like, this is like the real world meets the apocalypse. But I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. Artwork is great. We already knew that the artwork was going to be great. Bueno and Belair, they're killing it, right? But the characters are way more compelling to me initially than the characters from Nice House Nice House on the Lake, right? So Nice House by the Sea has different characters and a different approach to who they choose to be the survivors of humanity. And there is more of a connection to the previous series than I thought there would be. And I really liked that too. Thought that was interesting and really cool. I'm just saying, if you are trepidatious about this one, but you liked Nice House on the Lake, do not be fearful. This is really good. This was a really good, solid first issue, and I actually initially found myself more drawn to the characters in this one, for some reason. So there you go. Then we got Absolute Power Origins issue number 1. This is a 3-issue series that's going to dive into why Amanda Waller is doing what she's doing. She's basically depowered all the superheroes. She's got an army of Amazos out there, and she's just trying to just take it all over, right? So this is the story of why she's doing that, her motivation, but also the steps she takes to get to where she's at to be able to do this. I thought that this would just be all right, but I really enjoyed it. It's written by John Ridley, so the story is there, but it's about some instances in her early adult life that lead her down this road to doing whatever it takes to end in her opinion, in her mind, the superhero menace. It's not 100% essential to absolute power, but it does add a new layer of motivation to Amanda Waller, and I think it was a really nice touch to do it, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen after that. Then we've got Absolute Power Task Force 7, issue number 2, a 7-issue series. So it's basically, Amanda Waller has a Justice League of Amazos, and each one is based on a member of the Justice League. So in the first issue of this, we had the Superman one, right? Right? Yeah. In this one, we have the Aquaman one named Depth Charge, and he goes after Atlantis, and there's some interesting things that get played around there. So it's a different creative team from the last one. I think this is John Layman. You got a little Doom Patrol action. Yeah, John Layman, Max Raynor, but he shows up in Atlantis with Aquaman, and Atlantis has to fight back, and it leads to some pretty big moments and some really cool stuff that I did enjoy. Not essential, but it helps fill out Absolute Power. Absolute Power is going to be like 4 issues, so I think so far the way it's been working is all these tie-ins are really doing a great job, kind of like the original Crisis on Infinite Earths or even the Infinite Crisis era of making the picture seem bigger and fuller, but not necessarily 100% being necessary, right? Anyway, Absolute Power Task Force 7 I thought was pretty decent. Then we've got Green Arrow issue number 14, an Absolute Power tie-in. Oliver Queen has sided with Amanda Waller. Everybody feels betrayed by him, but they also think maybe there's something else going on. We don't really get into the motivations of Ollie here, though we get a little Ollie action. We mostly see the Arrow family, the way that they accept the news, understand the news, and what they do in response to the news. It was pretty solid. It was cool. We know that we got a new writer coming in, so Josh Williamson is here to guide Green Arrow through Absolute Power. It feels very definitively tied in, and once again, like Task Force X or Task Force 7, helps kind of fill out the form of Absolute Power a little bit. So I really liked this issue. I thought it was solid. Then we've got Detective Comics 1087. We are nearing the end of Ron V's Detective Comics run. We got Tom Taylor on the horizon, but I've been loving what Ron V's been doing. This has been a big, sprawling, operatic, and epic, tragic, and romantic story with sweeping action and big, giant moments. And now our hero has returned. He is more Batman than he's ever been. He's more unified, more whole. He's got the team behind him, and now he's going after the villains, and the villains realize that it's their last thrash, and it's a big climactic battle. It's the crescendo of the opera is what it is. I've loved this run the entire time, and there is no reason not to love it here in issue 1087. I believe we just got 2 more of those. Then we got The Flash, issue number 11, Cy Spurrier's Flash. Is challenging. It is confusing. It is so incredibly high concept, I barely can wrap my head around it. I've said this many times about this book, but I do think the challenge is rewarded when you get through it. I'm loving this book. I love these crazy concepts. I love this metaphysical, multiversal Speed Force interpretation and how it connects the Flash family and all of this. It's a challenging book that I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to grasp because I can't grasp it. But I'm loving it. I am. I do love this run. I love the crazy bonkers ideas. This seems very similar to what I think Grant Morrison would do with a Flash run, like an extended run on Flash. I know we had a brief run on Flash with Mark Miller, but this is more Morrison. You know what I'm saying? But it's also definitively Cy Spurrier. Cy Spurrier likes to play with these ideas too. He does a great job. It's unfair to compare Cy's work to Grant's work, but it is in that same vein, if that makes sense. Then we've got Zatanna, Bring Down the House, issue number 2. Mariko Tamake, Javi Rodriguez. The artwork is amazing, including the coloring. It's super cool. This is a Zatanna who's not a superhero. She hasn't even really figured out that she knows magic yet. The death of her father, she feels responsible for. Now she's brought into this world of magic that she was unaware of, or or willfully ignorant of, if you can see it that way. But I love Zatanna. I love the artwork here. I like the story. I like where it's gone. And I'm really excited to see where this is going to develop out. All right, then we got Batman the Dark Age, issue number 4. Mark Russell is crafting an Elseworlds Batman story. It's not officially labeled an Elseworlds, but I mean, it is, right? So it's kind of along the vein of Superman Space Age, but it's about Batman, and it's called the Dark Age. And a lot of it's taking place in the 60s and the 70s, and it's referencing political and social things that were going on at the time in a tongue-in-cheek way. Mark Russell can do that so well. He can make a book not feel so serious, but at the same time be serious, and I really appreciate that. Plus, you got the Allreds on the artwork, and if Mike and Laura are on a book, I'm going to check it out, and more than likely, I'm going to love it. Plus, you get the origin of their version of Robin here, and a little bit of Joker action. So Batman Dark Age, had a lot of fun with that. And then EC Comics is back from Oni Press. We have EC Presents Epitaphs from the Abyss. So this is a return of EC Comics, and I'm super excited for it, and I've read them, and let me tell you this. The stories are all solid enough. The first story, called Killer Spec by Jay Holtham, that's a pretty decent story. It's your typical EC type story, right? Just very simple with a punch at the end, right? The second story, called Senator, it was just all right. Didn't really work for me too much, but once again, kind of in that same vein. Family Values by Stephanie Phillips. I liked that story. I thought it was solid. The Us versus Us story by Brian Azzarello didn't really quite work for me. Now, the artwork on the first story is Jorge Fornes, and it's good. The artwork in the second story, I did not vibe with at all. Phil Hester has the best art in the book. He does the art in the third story, and then the art in the final story is somebody who I'm not familiar with, and it's all right. It's decent enough, I guess. It's right there. But here's the thing. EC, it wasn't the stories necessarily. Like, the stories were good, and they had great setups, and some of them had some really great punchy endings. Same thing here. But EC, to me, was always artist-driven. Johnny Craig, Wally Wood, Al Feldstein, Harvey Kurtzman. Like, you have the stuff that EC did, it was artist-driven. It's those artists that make that book. Here, I don't feel like the art lives up to the legacy of EC, except for like the Phil Hester bit, maybe a little bit of the Jorge Fornes, but I would really like to see more focus in on like really awesome artists, like really awesome, because when one of your stories is just kind of mediocre in art, it just kind of takes me out of it. Though I do love the little touch that the lettering looks like the old school EC lettering, so I'm not saying I didn't like it, but I will say I'm a slightly disappointed because I don't feel like it's as artist focused as EC should be, at least in my opinion. Then at IDW, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 1. It feels like we've been waiting for this one for a long time. And is it worth the wait? I think so. It's a pretty good jumping on point. It's connected to the previous 150 issues of TMNT and all the various miniseries and stuff like that, but it has all the turtles separated, and each of the first 4 issues is going to focus in on an individual turtle, where they are now, and build up from there. So even if you haven't read all the stuff that IDW's done, which I dropped out of it like around issue 20-something, you can jump in and be excited to continue the journey of TMNT from this point forward. This focuses in on Raphael. Raphael's in prison now. It's a really solid story. You find out why he's in prison. You find out what may be connected to the rest of the turtles, and it was interesting. I liked it. I thought it was solid. I think Jason Aaron did a good job. You got Joelle Jones on the artwork. Her artwork is pretty solid. There's going to be a different artist for each of these first 4 issues, focusing in on a different turtle. It's an interesting approach, basically starting with a micro series and then building up into the actual series in a way. I like that idea. I like that approach, and this to me was a really cool fresh start for TMNT. Then from Boom Studios, we have Hello Darkness issue number 1, a new horror anthology from Boom. You got work in here from Garth Ennis, Becky Cloonan, James Tynan, Werther Della Steve Orlando, Dave Cook, Robert Hack. Some cool stuff. It's kind of like, you know, the EC book, but kind of the same kind of results. Some of these stories I thought were a little bit better. I really liked the first story in here by Judd Ellison and S. Doyle. Then you had a Robert Hack story that was just like a page long, but it was cute and funny. It reminds me of some bits from Mike Mignola books. Then there's a Dave Cook, David Cousins story. Which one was that? Oh, that was a silly story about a bowler. That one was all right. Then there is a Something is Killing the Children story that's going to run throughout this series by Tynan and Della. So if you're a Something is Killing the Children fan, you want to check that one out. Then we've got a story by Sarah Anderson that was all right, but I felt like it just kind of was a very abrupt ending that I just didn't quite get. There's a Steve Orlando story in here that I really liked called The Foster, and I thought that really had a cool concept. It felt more in line with the EC stuff. Some of these stories feel more in line with what EC should be. And then there's a Garth Ennis, Becky Cloonan story that's going to be continued throughout the rest of the series, and it's kind of about these hipster dudes talking about war as if they're like geopolitical experts or something, and then they actually have to deal with the reality of situations. So, I don't know. I liked this. I thought it was cool. Actually, between these two, I think I was more impressed with Hello Darkness than I was Epitaphs from the Abyss. But I digress. Then we've got Berserker, A Face Full of Bullets. I'm going to give the cover of the week to the Matteo Scalera variant there. It's an homage to Frank Frazetta, but it works and it's cool. This is Berserker in the Old West. It's written by Jason Aaron. It's got artwork by Salvador Larroca, and the artwork's all right. Like, I'm not the hugest Salvador Larroca fan, but this book is trying to be very brutal and bloody, like Berserker typically is, but it doesn't quite fit the style of Salvador Larroca. The brutality just doesn't quite work. It makes it feel a little cartoony and phony to me. A little, I don't know, it just didn't really work for me artistically, but the story was decent enough. It's an Old West tale involving Berserker. It's $10, but if you're bought into the Berserker stuff, definitely worth checking out. I just realized I never told anybody what the smell of the week is. The smell of the week goes to Local Man. It smells so good even from the cover on. That book smells great. Speaking of Local Man, Tony Fleece has 4 books out. Feral, Local Man, Uncanny Valley, issue number 4. I'm loving this series. It's about this kid who's half cartoon. He just found out he's half cartoon. There's another reality. His grandfather's basically Yosemite Sam. He's being run around. He's the chosen one. There's some kind of evil bad who's after him. And this was a big touching moment in this story between a father and a son, or my bad, between a mother and a son, and the father and the mother of that son. The father of the mother of that son, so the grandfather. Anyway, really cool stuff. I love the way that David Wachter is doing the art, because everything in the real world looks very realized, fully fleshed out, and all the cartoons still look very flat and cartoony, and it works, and it's interesting. It's got tidbits of humor, but it's got this great sense of destiny and chosen one, like tropes in it, but it never feels like cheesy or obvious or boring at all. I have so much fun with this book, and I love the spooky skeletons and the pumpkin-headed dude. It's just a nice touch, Tony. Really cool stuff. Then we got Flash Gordon issue number 1. Flash Gordon issue number 0 was a free comic book day issue from Mad Cave, and I really loved it. It was quite bold. Basically, the story is that Flash Gordon's trying to save the Earth and the other planet. Was it Mogo or Mongo or whatever that planet's called? Winds up destroying one of the planets, right? So this picks up from that. Now, if you didn't read the free comic book day issue, they do a great job of kind of catching you up on what happened here. But this was just a really solidly put together adventure superhero-y type comic. It's written by Jeremy Adams, Will Conrad on the artwork. The artwork is solid. It opens up. Flash has been knocked out for a while. He's on some kind of death prison planet or something. He's going to have to break out, but things are way different. This is not the Flash Gordon that you remember from the movie. I don't think it's the Flash Gordon you remember from the comic strips and stuff. I never read that stuff. All I really know about Flash Gordon is the movie, and also that I love this book. I thought it was absolutely solid. A pick of the week contender, for sure. Also from Mad Cave, we got Dick Tracy, issue number 3. Man, this is great. Alex Segura and Michael Morisi are doing such a great job with this book. Geraldo Borges does a great job with the artwork, too. This is a bloody, grounded, down-to-earth, and violent Dick Tracy story. It is perfect for new readers, but I think if you're an old fan, either of the movie or the old Chester Gold stuff, I think you're going to like this. Most people seem to be liking this book. It's selling very well at my shop, and it continues to outsell the previous issues at my shop. So Dick Tracy, this is awesome. This could easily just be a cheesy book, something that's like based on nostalgia, but no, this is like a gritty, modern take on Dick Tracy, but set in those days, and very appropriately so. And it doesn't lose any of the goofy natures of like the way these characters look, but they are very menacing and threatening. And like I said, it's a grounded, down-to-earth approach to Dick Tracy, which I really enjoy. Then from Dark Horse, because Dark Horse is the new home of the Mark Millar stuff, but Mark Millar's Nemesis is here with Nemesis Rogues Gallery issue number 1. After the end of the big game, Nemesis is effed up. He's effed up. He's like paralyzed. He's messed up. The fraternity is done. But the story ain't done. This dude is going to find a way to come back, and that's what the pages of Nemesis Rogues Gallery gives us. I love the art by Valerio Giangiordano. I really like this story. It's got like this mystical quality to it. It's mean, it's brutal, and it's really fun. So if you liked the last Nemesis book, Nemesis Reloaded, and you liked Big Game, here's your next step. I love the enlarging of the Miller world. The Millerverse, if you will. Then we got Conan the Barbarian, issue number 13. I think that's the Frost Giant's daughter, if I remember correctly from my Conan lore. But this is a brand new Conan story. Jim Zub has been killing it on this book. Now you got Doug Braithwaite back, and it's a story of Conan going north. Further north, and he's kind of reflecting on his past, talking about Crom, how he feels about that. But a really great book that's super fun. Doug Braithwaite, he did the second arc in this story, and I think the art in his first chapter of this fourth arc is better and more solid than we saw in the start of his second arc, right? So Conan the Barbarian has been great. It's been so much fun. It gives me that vibe and feeling of digging into my stepdad's closet and reading his Savage Sword of Conan books. It has that vibe, it has that flavor to it. And then at the end, if that is the character that I'm thinking of, I'm really excited to see where we're going to go. So Conan the Barbarian continues to be good, and this is the first time I've ever really truly enjoyed a Conan book for more than 12 issues. Officially. Then from Magma Press, we've got Greaser, Gemini Blues, issue number 1. I almost didn't read this one because I haven't read anything that I've read from Magma yet, but then I looked and saw that it was written by Derek Robertson, Stephen B. Jones on the artwork, so I decided to check it out, and I really enjoyed it. It's a post-apocalyptic world, Earth, and there's like an alien race that runs things now, and they have this unlikely truce with the humans. They leave the humans alone, they leave them alone, but there's some interesting things going on here. I really liked the characters. I really liked the setup. It's simple. It's not like it's nothing we haven't seen before, but it had a nice sense of fun, humor, and charm about it that I really did like. So if you got some extra dough and you want to check out something interesting, maybe check out Grease or Gemini Blues. I think that's been the best Magma book that I've read so far. Then from Fantagraphics, we got Hate Revisited, issue number 2. Pete Bagg returning to the world of Hate, telling the story of Buddy and his friends today. That's right, they're all grown up now, but at the same time, we're telling stories set in the original Hate book and in between the original Hate book and this book. So I really love it for that. You get the first meeting of Buddy and Stinky here, and all the old school stuff is black and white and hatched, and then all the new school stuff where the characters are a little bit older doesn't have the hatching. It's got more of a cleaner line, and it's got color. I love this. If you're a fan of Hate, definitely you are going to love and adore diving back into this world. Peter Bagg is able to like play with where he was maybe mentally in those early 90s days, and how he's grown, how he's changed. I don't know, it's a really interesting exploration, and you never thought that Hate would return. You never thought it would return like this. This is a really clever way to bring it back. But if you've never read Hate, I would say you can check this out and enjoy it because of the way it's structured with the like the prequel type stories and the in-between stories and the modern stories. It works fine on its own, but I would encourage everybody to read the original Hate. Quintessential alternative Gen X underground comic from back in the day. Then Tony Fleece has one more book. This is Fleece Week right here, but Army of Darkness Forever, issue number 10, cements once again, it's my opinion, that this is the best Army of Darkness book we've ever gotten, because it is a direct sequel to the Army of Darkness movie, but it's also a direct sequel to the theatrical ending of that movie, as well as the original alternate ending to that movie, and it ties it all together so well, and at the same time continuing the story of the medieval times and really developing out the character of Sheila. What a fantastic job. It's all coming together so perfectly well here for Tony Fleece and company, and we just got the announcement this book will be going in extra issue 213 to give more room to have the story have the epic finale that I think it's going to get, and the book deserves. So to recap, Army of Darkness Forever is the best Army of Darkness book I've ever read. Hate Revisited is a really unexpected return to the world of hate in the modern day and in the original day, and I'm loving it. Greaser Gemini Blues was way better than I anticipated. Conan the Barbarian do what Conan the Barbarian do, which is slay. Then we got Nemesis Rogues Gallery. Nemesis is back. You can't keep this villain down. Then we got Dick Tracy, a grounded, gritty reinterpretation of the mythology of Dick Tracy. Flash Gordon you've never seen, but it is awesome. Just great adventure superhero comics. Uncanny Valley. Lots of nuance in this book, and at the same time, charm and fun. Berserker, A Face Full of Bullets. Cover of the week for me, Matteo Scalera, Frazetta, homage. It's Berserker in the Old West. Art's okay. Hello Darkness is a horror anthology from Boom that was really surprisingly good. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a new start, but focusing in on one turtle per issue. This one is Raphael in jail. I know you're interested. Epitaphs from the Abyss is okay, but it could have had more of a focus on what made EC truly special, which was really brilliant artwork. Batman Dark Age, an interesting take on the origin of Batman, completely different from anything else we've seen, and it's got artwork by the Allreds. Zatanna, Bring Down the House. I loved the first issue. I loved the second issue just as much. The Flash, challenging, confusing, but rewarding and awesome. Detective Comics is really ramping up to that epic crescendo to this operatic tale. Green Arrow, a great absolute power tie-in. Task Force 7, a decent absolute power tie-in. Absolute Origins, explaining more of the motivation and reasoning for Amanda Waller and how she got to the point she got, and I think it's needed and nice. Nice House by the Sea really surprised me. I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. I thought the characters were super strong. Venom Separation Anxiety is big dumb fun from the 90s, and that's exactly what it's designed to be. Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue number 7, explains a little bit about the big reveal. In Blood Hunt number 4, we get a little bit more knowledge about how it actually went down. Ultimate Black Panther keeps getting better and better. NYX was a soft start once again to this whole new era of X-Men. So far, it's not really working for me. Local Man gets the smell of the week, and it's also just a great comic as usual. Blood Squad 7, if you like The Boys, check this book out. If you like what Joe Casey did on Wildcats, check this book out. If you're a huge Youngblood fan, check this book out. If you like good comics that involve superheroes, check that book out. Something Epic, Zyman Kudronsky's best work yet has been the second arc of Something Epic, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the next. King Spawn. Spawn gets a new suit and a new partner, and it's cool. Spawn kills every Spawn. It's just big, dumb, stupid fun by way of, like, I Hate Fairyland. Six Fingers was an excellent ending to such a cool, intricate book. I cannot wait to read this in one hand all together again. Void Rivals continues to excel and soar and get better with each issue. The Sacrificers has a new artist, but don't let that dismay you. It's still just as solid as it has been, especially when you get to the end of that issue. Creature from the Black Lagoon ends, issue number 4. Not quite what I was expecting. I want to reread it. I didn't like it as much as Dracula, but it was a solid book nonetheless. Rook Exodus, brilliant artwork that's intricate and detailed, and an amazing story and characters that would sell action figures. It's toyetic AF. Then we've got Feral, issue number 5. That's the pick of the week. Zombie fiction by way of cats and a rabies virus. It's hitting those emotional moments, and it hits them very incredibly well here in issue number 5. That's why it gets the pick of the week. So that's what I've read. That's what I dug. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom.